Here.
George Archuleta,
Here.
Houston,
Present.
Daniel Spence,
Here.
Walton,
Here.
Lou.
Here. At this time, I'm going to call for a motion from Dr. Williams to approve the items that we discussed during our closed session.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the personalized education items presented to the board.
I second.
We've had a motion and a second to approve the items that were discussed during the closed session. No discussion, so we will take a vote by roll call.
Pam Pereza,
Yay.
George Archuleta,
Yes, aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been passed. Now we'll move on to our superintendent's report.
Good evening, Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, and board members. I will bring to you my superintendent's report for this evening. The first item on my superintendent's report, are we going to get? Okay, here we go. The first item on the superintendent's report is recognition and congratulations to the ECPPS Principal of the Year for 2021, Principal Delicia Moore, Principal of Elizabeth City Middle School, and she will be joining us shortly. There she is. Principal Moore is our Principal of the Year. And I'm going to share a little information about Principal Moore. Principal Moore has over 19 years of experience in education and has accomplished much during her career. She has served as a teacher, special populations coordinator for CTE, assistant principal, and principal. She is currently serving as the principal of Elizabeth City Middle School. Principal Moore has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in business administration from Elizabeth City State University. And she also holds a master's degree in curriculum and instruction as well as school administration. And that's a little bit about Principal Moore's background, but I would like to share some of the things that she's done this year that has been really amazing, and especially in the time of COVID. She has paid special attention to her staff and her students and the social emotional support that she's providing. And she is so passionate ensuring that her students get the education that they deserve. And I just cannot say enough good things about Principal Moore. She called me at a meeting one day and she said, Dr. Edmonds, I figured it out because they are all participating in improvement science. And that's how you get better at getting better in your school. And she said, my underlying problem, it's not attendance, it's math. And she and her instructional coach have been featured in several state level publications. They were recently in Ed and C, talking about the good work that they are doing at Elizabeth City Middle School. So I cannot say thank you enough to the care and concern that Principal Moore has shown to her staff, to her students, and how well she works with and leads amongst her peers. The return to campus, she took on a huge role with that. And I cannot say enough how much we appreciate you and thank you for your hard work. And congratulations. And we do have this plaque for you. And it says, Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public School District proudly honors Delicia Moore, Principal of the Year for 2021. Congratulations. It's going to get us if we're not socially distant. So,
And Dr. Evans and Chair Warden, if you'll kind of stand at the edge of your desk here.
this edge.
Go back there a little bit, Ms. Warden. Thank you. Happy hour.
Would you like to say anything, Principal Moore?
Thank you. I appreciate the recognition, this means the work to me because it comes from here. And so I have enjoyed this work, enjoyed definitely working with Dr. Edmonds and my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you can stay.
And next, as part of my superintendent's report, is introducing the principal for Central Elementary School, Principal Fudge, who is with us in one of those little boxes at the top. He has already been working at the school. The first day he was on the job, he was out at carpool, helping students out of the cars on a rainy day. And so we would like to say welcome to Principal Sammy Fudge of Central Elementary School. Mr. Fudge, would you like to say a few words to the board?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Edmonds. I'd like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity, along with Dr. Edmonds and her senior leadership team, to be the principal at Central Elementary School. I'm really flattered and honored, and I look forward to working with the community, working with my parents and our students. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Mr. Fudge, it is a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are excited and delighted to have you here in our community and with our children at Central Elementary. I've already heard such good things. I've heard you direct traffic very well. So keep up the good work. Keep up that great smile. I love it.
Thank you,
So,
ma'am. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And
You're welcome.
and welcome. Enjoy your Christmas holiday.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And a little bit about Principal Fudge. Principal Fudge has 37 years of experience in education, which includes serving as a teacher, assistant principal, and director of secondary education. Principal Fudge holds a bachelor's degree in social science and reading from Eastern Oregon State College, as well as a master's degree in curriculum development and special education from Regent University. He also earned a certificate of advanced graduate studies in educational leadership from Regent University. And additionally, Principal Fudge has completed all requirements. He's working on the dissertation for a doctoral degree in educational planning, policy, and leadership from the College of William and Mary. So welcome, Principal Fudge, and we are excited to have you on board.
Thank you, Dr. Evans. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to wait for the PowerPoint to come back up. The next thing that I would like to share as part of the superintendent's report is our holiday card. Every year we have a holiday card, and so we're pleased to present the 2020 holiday card, and we'll be sharing that card with others following this board meeting, but we wanted you to see it before we shared it out. All right, let's roll.
I see Santa's at a distance in the chimney.
And this is artwork from our students.
That's great. Great work.
We are so thankful for our students who participated in our holiday cards.
Beautiful.
The next part of the superintendent's report, and if you're okay, Ms. Borden, I'll do that from here so I can read my
That's fine.
screen. So each board meeting, I give an update on our return to campus efforts. And just as we're getting the PowerPoint up, just a reminder that our pre-K and elementary students started on October 19th. So they are on day 39 of returning to campus. Our middle school started on November 2nd, and so they are in day 29 of returning to campus. And our high schools are returned on November 9th, so they are on day 24 of returning to campus. And we are still in partnership with Albemarle Regional Health Services and the ABC Science Collaborative. And we do have Dr. Smith, who's on with us tonight. So when we get to the portion of our agenda, when we're talking about the spring of 2021, he is available to answer any questions when we get to the personalized education piece. So we are very thankful for that partnership with the team from Duke. And as we've looked at our COVID dashboard, I know that's pretty small, but this is where we report on our website how many cases of COVID we've seen in our school. Last week we had 4 cases, and this week we have 1 thus far. And I'm happy to say that we have not seen any secondary spread in our schools. So that speaks volumes to our teachers and our principals and the care that they are paying to the safety protocols that are in the schools. And the next slide is just the visual, and all of this is on our website. And so if you look at at the very end where you see the 1 bar, that's this current week. The one previous or before that, you see the 4 bars, that represents the 4 cases that we had last week. And so you will see that we're keeping up with that by the week. So, and we have it separated by each of the schools. And for our elementary schools, we will see that the attendance for elementary is still holding steady. And our pre-K, we had still at 57%, at Central Elementary, 49%. We see a slight increase at J.C. Sawyer. I share with the board that whenever there's a spot that's free, we're always looking at how do we bring some of the students in from the wait list. And so we see a slight increase at J.C. Sawyer at 53%. Northside Elementary, 52%, which is a slight increase from the last time I reported out to the board. Pasquotank Elementary is at 47% of students that are face-to-face. P.W. Moore, 50%. Cheap Harney is at 32%. And Weeksville Elementary is 60% of their students have returned to campus. You can see overall in our elementary schools, we're still holding on steady average about 50% of our students back on campus. For our middle schools, we see that there's been at Elizabeth City Middle School, we have a slight decrease of 35%, and River Road Middle School, a slight increase of 35% as well. And for our high schools, as we shared earlier, the number of students returning to campus at the high school is not as high as we've seen at the elementary and the middle school levels. The early college is at 14%. And you can see the note there that says out of the 142 total students enrolled, 58 are eligible for face-to-face due to many students being in the college classes at COA and following the COA schedule. At Northeastern, we have about 15% of the students that are on the roster for attending face-to-face or return to campus. They have seen a decrease, and they actually have about 64 students that are attending on a regular basis. So we're seeing that some parents are choosing to keep the students home and in a remote status. And for Pasquotank High School, we've seen a slight decrease, and we're at 20% for Pasquotank High School. And so that is the update on the numbers that are actually coming in face-to-face in our COVID numbers.
I just had a question, Dr. Edmonds. Does the high school, Pasquotank High School and Northeastern High School, do those numbers take into account kids who maybe would come in for the virtual public school? I mean, are we differentiating between that and kids who are going to COA or doing, like, or taking
haven't.
classes from COA? So
Yeah.
if they're not coming in because they would just go to school and do what they were doing at home.
Yeah, we do not have that separated out, but I
Okay,
can
that's
do
what
that for you.
I was just was
So,
wondering if that,
yeah.
because the early college is separated
By
based
those that are
on,
taking college classes
Right.
at COA.
Okay.
Yes. Since that's a heavy part of the junior and seniors curriculum, we wanted to make sure that we shared those pieces out. But we can definitely get that for you.
I had a question too. I'm wondering if we have any kind of data on the kids who are working remotely versus the kids who are face-to-face. Have you seen, is there any kind of information that we have that could show a comparison of how well they're doing their progress?
And that is something that we are looking at. We're looking at those that are face-to-face versus those that are remote. We're also, I've asked Dr. Spence and her team to look at those that were in our Summer Jumpstart program and those that are on campus versus those that are staying in remote status. Are we seeing something? Is the progress still moving forward with those students? We had students at the middle school that also at ECMS that participated in a Summer Jumpstart. Same thing, when you compare those students that were in that program and then some are face-to-face and some are remote, do we see a comparison there? And also getting as much data as we can on students, those that are participating in some of the community learning pods. So before we make judgment about why a student is or is not performing well, we know that there's been some questions across the state, across the country, are students getting extra help? Well, those that are in our learning pods, we would expect that they are. And so getting all the information that we can and then making a comparison for those groups of students that were remote versus those that are face-to-face. And so, Dr. Spencer, I don't know if your team has finished those comparisons, or is that something you'll have for the board in January?
Okay.
What we wanted to do too is, it's more than just test scores, but it's about how often are the students participating in class? Are they doing assignments regularly? And so what we wanted to do is look at iReady, because that's a program that the students are using, the number of minutes in the coursework itself, and then how many assignments they're completing. And so we, as a team, created a lot of that data and put that on a spreadsheet and then sent that out to the schools. And they're also adding additional data because it's important to look at the whole picture. And then we did some data analysis and deep digs. And so the school level instructional coaches went through how to do the 5 whys, where you dig down deep to figure out the root cause of some of those. It's really easy to speculate. But then whenever you go through a protocol and you start asking these questions, every school might have something and it could be different. And so finding those root causes and then aligning professional development and support, and then providing that in PLCs for teachers, but then also knowing how to better serve our students.
Can you have that information for us by our committee meeting? By the 19th
Absolutely.
of January? Okay, because I think that's an important piece of information for me
Absolutely.
in making a decision about how we move forward. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
So you're going to use this as a guide for the spring? Is that what you're
Yes.
doing? So you're collecting now, you're going to end your collection, and then you'll review the data, and you're going to use it for the spring.
Absolutely. And another piece, and we'll talk about this when we get to testing, that what other pieces of data are we going to use to determine success? So we're tier 1 county, so our high schools are looking at scholarship dollars. So students having access and being able to actually afford college for tier 1 county, that's one of our data points.
Right.
And so we're looking at some very innovative ways to identify success that's not just the test data themselves. So.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. And were there any other questions on that? Because that completes my superintendent's report if there are no other questions. And Dr. Smith will take questions at the personalized education portion of the agenda.
Oh, okay.
But welcome, Dr. Smith, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. Okay, I need a motion from the floor for the approval of the minutes for November 23rd, November 30th, and December 2nd. Those minutes are attached. I hope you familiarize yourself with those. So may I have a motion to approve those?
I move to approve the minutes for November 23rd.
And I need a second as well.
November 30th and December 2nd.
I'll second it.
Okay?
Pam Perezza,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, Dr. Williams, I cut you off a little bit. I'm really sorry. Do we have any public forum comments? We do.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We have one comment this evening from Harold Alcorn. Mr. Alcorn submitted this via email before 2 p.m. today. I have several questions for tonight's meeting. All questions are numbered in this email, and all questions come from Harold Alcorn. Why is the Elizabeth City school system not honoring the plan established prior to this school year starting for children to not come to school? Prior to the school year beginning, my family, along with Elizabeth City Public Schools, made the decision that my children would not attend this entire school year. And here we are midway through the school year at the height of the pandemic, and my child is being told she must come to school to take a test or be penalized. The state of North Carolina has one of the highest infection rates in the country. We are under very strict pandemic-related restrictions with reduced gatherings and positive cases within the county and the school system. The conditions that we are currently in currently are many times worse than they were in July and August when the agreement was made for my children to stay at home. Why would you think that it is appropriate to bring children to school now, when it was inappropriate months ago when the infection rate was less? Why would you penalize students for the school system's lack of effective planning? Why would you please keep your word and continue online learning with testing included for the rest of the year? I understand that these waters are uncharted, but expecting me to send my children into these uncharted waters is not okay. I would appreciate being contacted by the school system with a positive plan. I have had contact with administrators at PCHS and only got a negative response. I can be reached anytime via email or phone, and he has provided his number.
Thank you, Mr. Alhorn. And as is customary, and I'm going to say this for the benefit of our new members, we will not respond at this time, but there will be a follow-up on your comments. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Financial, Business, and Technology Committee, and that's myself and Mr. Walton. And we're going to begin with a maintenance roof report from Ms. Wilkins. Is Ms. Wilkins available?
She's on to take
Okay.
any questions.
Do you have any questions, members, about this report, if you've had a chance to look it over? Ms. Wilkins is available for questions at this time if you do. If there are no questions, then we're going to move on. And I'm going to call on our Chief Finance Officer, Rachel Haynes, to present a couple of items for us to take. Some of them we need to take action on.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members, good evening. Before we move into action items, I'd like to give an update on our state coronavirus relief funds, and this is as of today. And we have provided this to you in a handout. These are funds that we have received in different allotments throughout the fiscal year. In fact, we received funds Friday. We received an allotment of $19,930 in PRC 128, which you can see is our home and community Wi-Fi allotment. These are funds that have to be spent by December 30th. Last week, however, we also received flexibility in how we could use these funds, but they have to be transferred within the coronavirus relief funds. So what we have provided to you is a handout that shows you that the original allotment that we've received, which is on the left-hand side, and how we plan to allocate those funds to spend them by December 30th. Are there any questions on this report? And we'll be able to give you a final report in January after we close out on the 30th.
A question. Your school health report, it says allotted 35,000 and funds allocated was 59,700. What is that? What are those funds, if I'm asking that question?
The school health support has been used, funds have been used to contract with additional nursing staff so that we could provide a nurse at every school site.
Could that, I don't know if this is the right question, could some of those funds, is that the same category to use for teachers and students who are having some challenges with this whole COVID thing, getting assistance for that? Like, I don't know if it's mental health, is that what it's called?
There are funds that can be used for mental health support. This would have been one of those pots that can be, and we have additional funds that can be used for those things as well. Yes, sir.
I just didn't want to go to waste, not used.
Are there any other questions about this? I asked Ms. Haynes to provide this information to you. We have been meeting as a subcommittee, and this has been quite a task, but she has handled it extremely well. And I think we're in very good shape, as you can see.
And with lots of help. We've done it with lots of help.
Oh,
from
yeah,
everyone.
she has a very strong department.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Haynes, for
Yes, ma'am.
providing that.
So moving into our agenda items. Chair Warden, the first item on the agenda is the budget calendar for the 2021-2022 school year. And this is, I believe, attachment FBT 02. So are there any questions about the proposed calendar?
Any questions about the calendar? Okay, we can move on.
Do you want me to continue before we take action, or?
Yeah, I think we'll just take action on all the items at once.
Okay, so the next agenda item is FBT 03. These are our budget amendments for this month. The first amendment is amendment number 103 to our state public school fund. There's an increase of $275,238. The majority of that was the increase to PRC 029, which is behavioral support, PRC 037, which is restart due to our conversion, and PRC 132, which were coronavirus relief funds for exceptional children. The second amendment is amendment number 201, to our current expense fund. There's no increase or decrease in the funding. We have just aligned budgets with actual expenditures by moving funds in between purpose codes. The next amendment is amendment number 303. There's an increase in our federal grants fund of $3,672,894.16. This is due to approval of several of our federal grants. So we've received funds for Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, and PRC 109.
The next amendment is number 402, which is our capital outlay fund. And this shows an increase of $183,824, and that's to record the purchase of bus number 222 and 223. And the final amendment is amendment number 803, which is our local special revenue fund. And it shows an increase of $13,716 for a grant received by Northeastern High School. It was the Northeastern High School GO grant. Are there any questions on amendments?
What was the purpose of that grant?
It was for the, it's for, I wanted to say FFA.
Okay. So is it going to be used for the demonstration farm? Is that what it's for?
I can't remember if it's directly related to the demonstration farm, but I believe it is. It has
They've been
something to do
doing
with
some
the
work out
high
there. That's why I asked.
Yeah, but I can bring, next month, I'll be sure to bring you a full account of that. It's also coronavirus relief funds.
Right.
That they've received through a grant, so it has to be spent by December 30th.
Right.
So we'll bring a report on the final purchases for that as well.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to move on into proposals, Chair Warden, or?
I would like to take action on these two items, the budget calendar and the budget amendments, before we discuss the proposals. Because there may be more questions about those. So with that said, I need a motion from Mr. Walton to approve, to take action of approval on the calendar and the budget amendments.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the calendar and the budget amendments.
Okay, I need a second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, with that, it has been approved and seconded. Ms. Sawyer, roll call, please.
Pam Pereza, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
And now we'll move into the proposals.
Okay, the next two items on your agenda are attachment FBT 04 and attachment FBT 05, and we'll go through these individually. Amber Godfrey is our Director of Technology, and she's available for any questions that I may not be able to answer. She is leading these projects, and this is two of our larger capital projects this year. In attachment FBT 04, it's the proposal for security cameras for our 7 elementary schools. The total of the proposal comes to $663,626.02, and we had budgeted $659,000. So we would have to request to move a difference of $4,626.02. We would like to request to use funds remaining from the NHS boiler project, which is completed, to complete this project. The purchasing of these items are done through a cooperative purchasing agreement, which is a competitively bid contract. We would be contracting with S3 Integration, which is the same company that did the other security cameras. So these would pretty much kind of be like a continuation of that
yeah.
project, even though they're separate schools.
And all of them would be consistent.
They should be, yes.
What did you say the difference is?
The difference in our budget and the difference in the project was $4,626.
And we have that difference in our budget.
We do have that and the residual from another project.
Okay. Right. When will this work be done, Ms. Godfrey?
Ms. Warden, the work will begin as soon as we are ready. The company that we're working with is ready to start in January. As soon as we work with the schools to make sure that we can set up a schedule, they will work basically when we allow them to be in the building. Wednesdays, of course, when we're not in school with students, and then they will also work after hours as well. So just like they did with their past projects, they'll work around the clock to make sure we get things done the way we need to.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
Any
welcome.
other questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of wondering, how are we over? Was that on our behalf with being under about $4,000?
Well, when we presented it as a budget item, it's an estimate. So when the final came in, it's over by
The difference of
$6,000
$4,000.
or $4,000.
But this will take care of all our elementary schools.
Yes, ma'am, it would.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Jim?
Any other questions? Okay.
Chair Warden, did you want me to do these together?
I'd like to make a motion that, let's move on this. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the work to go forward with the security cameras and access in the elementary schools. Do I have a second?
I second it.
We'll need a roll call vote.
Pam Perezza, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
and Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
And Ms. Haynes, moving on.
The next item in your packet is attachment FBT 05, and it's the proposal for access control. The proposal that you have before you is for all 12 school buildings. The proposal includes 64 readers, which is all exterior doors with the reader at the main entrance to include a keypad card reader. So at the main entrance, they'd have that keypad access instead of just the card swipe. So that would help eliminate those Knox boxes that we had talked about before. So the total for all schools is $504,363.02. So when we budgeted for this, we said that we would set aside originally $250,000, but we did not identify which schools we would do first. This is inclusive of all schools, so this would allow us to complete the project and move forward with all schools. Currently, we have funds remaining from two projects, the NHS boiler upgrade and the Pasquotank County High School water heater, that are completed with residual funds of $92,870.85. We would request to transfer those funds to this project. In addition to that, we would need $161,492.17 to complete the full project. We have funds that are allocated in the Northeastern High School HVAC construction project for Phase 1 that we know will not be completed this year, and we would like to request to use a portion of those funds to be able to complete this entire project for all schools. Are there any questions?
And this is a card in addition to a keypad, or is it just the card?
Front doors would have both. The main entrance door
Okay.
would have both. All other exterior doors would just have the card readers.
Okay.
So the main entrance would have both.
And I will add, this has been discussed with our local law enforcement and our emergency management officials about the ability for them to enter the school during emergencies. God forbid that we have one. But this is extremely important as far as the safety of our children and our staffs are concerned. And it seems rather appropriate that we are discussing this during the anniversary of Sandy Hook. So keeping that in mind, we want to maintain as solid a security as we can at our schools. And as I said, it has been discussed with our local law enforcement and our local emergency management team. So are there any questions about this?
And Ms. Ward, we haven't had them review this final proposal yet. We did want to bring this to the board first,
Right.
but it does take into account those discussions that we've had at Safety and Security Council.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
Exactly. Anything anyone
And
would
when
like
will
to?
this project start?
Amber, I'm assuming this one as well. They said they could start pretty much right away.
Yes, they're excited to start whenever, we have approval.
And we're clear on the funding. We have that with no issues.
I will follow up just to be sure that we wanted to bring it to the board first, of course, and make sure that the project was approved. And then I will, phone the county and make sure that they're okay with us transferring funds.
Good.
The design phase will be done, but we will not, the design phase takes so long that before it actually goes out to bid, it'll be after this fiscal year. So then what we wanted to be able to do was actually take a complete project to the county and not break it up in phases. So we hope at the end of design, we'll be able to take that comprehensive project to work on funding for the full project.
Which makes perfect sense. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the following project that was discussed by Ms. Haynes during this session, the access control systems for each one of our schools for the purposes of security.
And I'll second that.
Okay? Any discussion? Okay, we take a vote, roll call.
Pam Pereza, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else, Ms. Haynes? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I see no need for us to discuss the board committee assignments. I've already sent out emails to each one of you about those assignments, and we're moving forward. There are some special committees that we are going to discuss that will be added to our major committees. And as we go forward with that, we'll make those assignments accordingly. Okay. We're going to move on to our personalized education committee with Ms. Pereza and Ms. Houston. Ms. Pereza?
Give us a call.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, Ms. Houston, you have a mic, so let's do.
Oh,
Yeah.
she doesn't matter. Okay, Dr. Edmonds, testing assessment update.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Perez, and board members. As I'm sure you're aware, there's been much discussion at the state level around the state level testing. And Ms. James Davis is going to give an overview of where we are at the state level in reference to how the state is moving forward in seeking a waiver. And then Ms. Griffin will share with you one recommendation that we are going to make to the board to have our testing align with that at the state level, but also how we're approaching testing based on the framework and guidance that we've been given at the state level. So Ms. James Davis.
Okay. Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, and Chair of the committee, I think it was Ms. Houston. Oh, Ms. Pereza also, I'm sorry, trying to get used to these committees, new assignments, I'm sorry. So on last Wednesday, I was on a meeting with the state superintendents, and at that meeting, the chairman of the state board, Eric Davis, began discussion on testing. He stated that, many people had been asking about why we were still testing or why students couldn't take tests like they do at some of the universities in at home in a remote setting. And he said, but based on some of the data they've already gotten about student performance at the end of last year, they already know that that's not a reliable measure of students' actual performance. So he said to allow districts to safely test students, they've looked at extending the testing window. By doing that, it'll give the State Department time to work through potential waiver opportunities. He also stated that back in the fall, early fall, they know of one state, and that was the state of Georgia, that had submitted a waiver request to the Education Department. And at that time, the Bessie DeVos, who was the U.S. Secretary of Education, turned down that waiver that Georgia had submitted. And at that time, there was communication also given from that department to all different state departments, said that there were no intentions of approving any waivers that may come. So he said by extending the testing window, because we still have to abide by the procedures that they have in place, and well, state testing as a part of accountability, federal accountability, that in January, what they plan to do as soon as the administration turn, they plan on submitting a waiver. But meanwhile, the state director, Ms. Tammy Howard, said that they are studying the proposal that Georgia had, and I guess they're in communication with some of the other states who are planning on submitting these same waivers. In doing so, they're going to ask that in January, probably right around the 20th or so, of course, that's when administration changed, they're going to submit a waiver. They know right now, as a part of ESSA, there are 3 things that states and districts have to make sure that they take account of, and that's one, they must promote student achievement. The second thing is that the states must monitor student performance. And then the third thing is parents must receive information on student performance. And so we have those things in place already, according to Director Howard. And we have those with the check-ins, with benchmarks, and we are able to monitor student performance. So in January, they're planning on taking that waiver request back. The federal government has 120 days to give us an answer on whether the state receives that, they're granting our state the waiver when it is submitted. The only thing is, I think they're going to do it as soon as they can, because right now, the testing window has extended for CTE students is going to end February the 15th. And for all other students, it would be June the 30th. And so if they're able to submit the waiver and we get the information back, then they're hoping that we can relax that 95% attendance rate, participation rate is called. And then we can also consider changing the 20%, because right now the General Assembly has that for student accountability, those state assessments are worth 20% of a student's final grade. So at this time, I'm going to ask Nina if she would come up and give us some of the options that we're hoping that you will consider.
And thank you, Ms. James Davis. And as Ms. Griffin is making her way to the podium, there are some stipulations. You heard Ms. James Davis talk about the 95% rule. So we cannot require students to come in to test. We cannot make it mandatory. There are some students that will be impacted that will need to come in to test, and Ms. Griffin will share that information with you.
Good evening, Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, distinguished board members, and Superintendent Dr. Edmonds. I come before you this evening to present information in regards to the Fall 2020 EOC NC CTE final exams. This school year, the ECPPS Fall EOC CTE testing window is December 14th through the 21st. However, due to the status of the COVID-19 pandemic that we are currently in, ECPPS, along with a number of other North Carolina school districts, has received approval from the Northeast Regional Accountability Coordinator to test outside of that window. This will allow us to designate a series of different EOC testing windows until June 30th, 2021. The North Carolina CTE testing window has been extended to February 15th, 2021. With that being said, if students are unable to come in between December 14th and 21st, they will have an opportunity to test throughout these windows to complete their fall exams. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So if we're in the same COVID situation, February 2021, what are our options for kids or children to come and take the test? what are we going to do for those kids who still who need to take the test, but still afraid to come to the school?
Well, the thing is that they do have this EOC window is extended till June, so we can like set different, if it's safe. If it's safe and parents are okay and we have that moment, we can make different various windows. So you can have a window in January, you can have one in February, you can have one in March, April, May, and all up to June. So this depends on where we are in those situations. That's how we'll plan that. So we have till June 2021 to take EOCs and February 15th to do EOCs. Now, there may be a possibility that when the waiver comes, if the waiver comes through, they'll definitely change those dates.
And something else to consider with that piece as well is that our high school students are only on the campus in the afternoon for one class period. So we have 3/4 of the day, so the morning time to schedule students throughout to be able to come.
That's what I was going to ask next. Do we have a schedule now to kind of accommodate those parents or those children who don't want to come to school to possibly come in contact? Classrooms set up for just maybe one student, so they're coming in and they won't come in contact with somebody else to give them opportunity, or is that being offered to the parents and children, or?
It can be offered. We can make accommodations, but remember, we cannot require them to come.
No, I got that. But the parent who's afraid to allow their child to come to school, is it an option for them to contact the school administration?
Yes, they can
To
definitely.
have their testing done with their child in a room, maybe by themselves, so the chance of them coming in
Yes,
contact.
they definitely can do that. Yes, we can set that up with the school administrators and they can have those special accommodations during this time. And you don't have to put in like a medical waiver for that because of the COVID situation.
That's good to know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, ma'am.
But how many proctors will be in approximately for every student? Just one proctor?
One test administrator and a proctor.
So one proctor, the student, and one administrator. So there's only 3 in the room, and there's social distancing. They'll have their mask on, so it gives the safety of the child.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we also have the opportunity to have roving proctors this year as well. So even if there was that one-on-one situation, the proctor doesn't have to be in the classroom, maybe like in the hallway, but just keeping an eye on it, and it will be that one person. So it could possibly be 2 people in the classroom, but one person still is monitoring from the hallway. And they can come in and out, but it's just not that many people in there.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question? Is that going to be set up on a case-to-case basis? Or are you going to set up a schedule prior to, and then, based on what you think the numbers would be? And then as a parent request, I want my child to come in, like Daniel said, but I want him to be separate. They'll already fit into a schedule, or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And our schools, they have been able to get in contact with parents and, speak to them, our principals and their school testing coordinators, to see what kind of situation will work best for them. And they will make accommodations.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's where some of the confusion is coming in, that parents feel that they have to send their students in because principals are reaching out to find out, to say, we're putting together this plan, and when would you want your child to come in? And so I think that's where some of that's coming from.
That's why I asked that question.
And you're having to, because we have to proceed testing. It's not because we want to.
Right.
So it's in our best interest to have as many to take the test as possible. Yeah. So I'm sure that's what you're beginning to work on now, is working on a schedule or a plan for those students to come in that are willing to.
So what I'm understanding is that if a parent wants that accommodation, they will have to they will call the school administrator. It's not told to them up front that
Well, No, it's not necessarily told to them up front, but you know, where the conversation piece is like what will work best for you. It's kind of like a survey. So what will work best for you? And then those administrators will definitely be able to say, okay, we can do this if you want your child to come in. And because we're not requiring them to come in, but if you would prefer for them to come in for their exam, then yes, ma'am, they can definitely work those things, situations out for them.
Because I think that may be, as you said, a part of the confusion. People believe that the children are required to come in to take the test.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
But right now, they are reaching out to the parents to let them know that if their child wants or they wish for their child to come in and test, then accommodations will be made for
Yes,
that
ma'am.
to happen.
That can happen.
Is that
yes, ma'am.
correct?
That is, but I think you'll see in Ms. Griffin's
Yeah.
presentation that there's certain groups.
Okay,
So, but yes, for those
Okay.
yes.
all right.
So on this next slide right here, this is our fall semester high school numbers. So depending on their course load, students in grades 9 through 12 participate in the EOC and NCCTE exams. This fall, ECPPS has 664 EOC exams scheduled, and that is exactly 586 students who have to take an exam for EOC, 450 NCCTE exams scheduled, and those are 398 CTE students, and 27 students who are scheduled to take the ACT Work Keys exam. The ACT Work Keys exam will only be administered to our early graduates. This fall, ECPPS has a total of 47 early graduates. These students are from Northeastern High School and Pasquotank County High School and are expected to graduate this December. At this time, Elizabeth City Pasquotank Early College and H.O. Trigg Community School do not have any early graduates on their roster. The fall 2020 testing plan. Between December 14th and 21st, we can schedule only our early graduates who need to complete any required EOC testing, CTE testing, and ACT Work Keys assessments before graduating to come into test. Then we could schedule our non-graduating students to be assessed throughout the extended testing windows. Only students whose families have chosen Plan B, which will be our face-to-face instruction, will have the opportunity to participate in their EOC and CTE exams, if their parents and/or guardians would like for them to. Students who are unable to come in during the December testing window will receive a grade of IP, which means in progress, for that particular course. The IP will be removed and replaced with the appropriate grade once a student has completed their required exam. For all of the classes that do not require an EOC or NCCTE final exam, those courses may have a teacher-created test, and it can be uploaded into Canvas and administered remotely. Are there any questions about that particular slide?
And just keep reiterating that this is for fall testing because the state has not received a waiver, and it is in state statute about testing. And it's in our ESSA plan that's with the federal government as well. You probably need to share the next slide. Just go through all of it so they can ask
Yes,
questions at the end so that so they can see the whole presentation.
So North Carolina end of course requirements. The North Carolina State Board of Education Policy Test 003 states that public schools shall use from all operational EOC assessments and minimum of 20% of the student's final grade. According to the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools Policy Code 3410, the testing and assessment program, which is under Section B, high school's final exams and end of course tests states that the results of the EOC and the NCCTE exams will count as 25% of the student's final grade for each high school course. Let me go ahead and go to the next slide.
Keep going.
ECPPS, this is our recommendation. would like for the Board of Education to amend Policy Code 3410B to align with our to align our final exam percentage with North Carolina state requirements. Our recommendation is to reduce the 25% to 20% for EOC and NCCT exams for the 2021 school year. And the main purpose for us trying to asking to reduce this percentage is because of the time lapse between the testing windows. We do want our students to definitely have that content, and we do want this 25% to be punitive on them if it's like far out before they take this course. Are there any questions about that? And thank you.
Want them to take action?
Oh, yes. Can we take action on that request to reduce the 25% to 20%?
Thank you. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Officer Bearman.
We need a vote by roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Pam Pereza, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all so very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, we're going to move on to the ECPPS return to campus.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, and board members, as we're thinking of moving forward after the Christmas break, wanted to give the board an opportunity to talk with Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith is a part of the ABC Science Collaborative with the Duke University Medical Center. This is a team of medical doctors, epidemiologists, infectious disease doctors, pediatricians whose expertise is in the area of epidemiology and infectious diseases. So as we're thinking about our spring semester and moving forward, wanted to give the board an opportunity to be able to ask Dr. Smith any questions as you're having your discussion. Welcome, Dr. Smith.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for the invitation tonight.
And if you would like, Dr. Smith can certainly share some information. We had a call with him today, and thank you to Ms. James Davis for being on most of that meeting for me. But he can certainly share some information out about where we are with the pandemic, with COVID-19. And I don't know if you want to hear about vaccinations or things of that nature, but he can certainly share as much as you all would like to hear. So, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, Dr. Emmons, I didn't prepare any slides for this meeting. Is that okay? Try to just kind of go off the cuff?
Perfectly fine.
Okay,
Perfectly
great.
fine.
So I'll give you my quick spiel, and then you all can kind of ask questions as they come up. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of your meeting tonight. My name is Mike Smith. I am a pediatric infectious disease doctor here at Duke. Also have a master's degree in epidemiology, and relevant to this discussion, have two kids, one of whom is older and remote learning, and one of whom is younger and in preschool, essentially in person since July. So I understand this both from a scientific perspective as well as a parenting perspective. I'm hoping that you have some sense of what the ABC Science Collaborative is, but it's basically a large partnership between faculty members at Duke and UNC and more than 50 districts across the state of North Carolina. We have lots of educational series. We have webinars, all of which are kind of available on our website, which is abcsciencecollaborative.org. And really, I've had the pleasure of working with Dr. Edmonds through a series of biweekly meetings that we have with superintendents in the region. So every other Monday at 10:30, I meet with Dr. Edmonds and some of the local school districts. Really depends on the week. Sometimes I do most of the talking and talk about epidemiology and new scientific findings this week, like the vaccine a couple months ago, is therapy. As we learn more about the best way to prevent transmission of this virus, that's something that I share. But really, also, it's a chance for superintendents to come together. And there are weeks where I just kind of sit there and kind of moderate the discussions as superintendents share kind of what's worked well and not worked well in their districts. So really, the goals of the collaborative are one, education, and again, we've been fortunate to partner with you all in ECPPS for several months now. For districts both in North Carolina and across the country, we're actually trying to expand nationally. That website is available free of charge. We also work to help school districts, make informed decisions based on epidemiology in the local area and in conjunction with the departments of public health about whether it's appropriate to transition. So if the schools are in Plan C, is it safe to go to Plan B? If you're in Plan B, can you go to Plan A? If you're in Plan B, given what's going on, is it safer to kind of go back into remote? And again, my expertise is really on the infectious disease side and kind of risks of transmission. I will say, as a group of people trained in public health and infectious diseases, we firmly believe that children can go back to school safely. Part of this project, the kind of the third piece, in addition to just the education and the helping with decision making, is to collect data. And earlier on in the presentation, I heard Dr. Edmonds say, and I just want to clarify this statement for everybody, that there hadn't been any cases of secondary transmission within the district. And when we talk about secondary transmission, that means kind of transmission of COVID that can be linked to the school setting. Right. There's a lot of COVID going on right now across our country, across the state. And we know that students in your district and teachers in your district, just from, being a human in 2020, right, going to the grocery store, going to the church, whatever activities you do, it's quite possible that you can contract COVID. What we think, and I've already, I've been listening to some of the things about testing and education and how are we doing in the remote setting. So it's important to get kids back in school if we can. We think the most important metric for that is not so much what's going on in the community, but is there secondary transmission? Now, to a certain extent, to a certain point, you get to a number where, sorry, this is my 3-year-old I mentioned already, where the transmission in the community is so high that perhaps the safer thing is to temporarily shut down, or I'm sure you've seen in the media this week, a lot of the districts that had been in Plan B are moving back to Plan C. Really, though, in large part due to people quarantining and the inability to staff schools rather than a disease transmission. And basically, we're an objective observer. We're not going to tell anybody what to do. We're not going to tell the superintendents what to do. We're not going to tell the boards what to do. But we're happy to kind of work closely with districts to basically support the decisions they make. And if the decision is made to return to in-person school, as you all have done, we're happy to kind of go over protocols and plans because the most important thing is to make sure everything is followed per protocol. It's the breaches in protocol where we start to see infections. And I will say, based on the schools that have contributed data to us, we've got 11 schools who have been in Plan B for at least 9 weeks, and we've seen very, very, very few cases of transmission. About 15 in districts that include now almost 90,000 children and adults. And importantly, not a single transmission from a child to an adult in the school. So actually, I talked longer than I had intended, but those are the key talking points. We think school is safe. We want you to make safe decisions, and we're happy to help you do that. I'll stop there and see what questions you have. We were a site in the vaccine trial, so I'm actually one of the investigators for the Pfizer vaccine trial. If y'all have questions about that, but I think that's secondary because, well, that's light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm super excited to be part of this. We still have some way to go before vaccine is going to become a reality for you all. But we can, if nobody has any questions, I'm happy to talk about that next.
Any of you have any questions for Dr. Smith? Okay. Dr. Smith, I think you can move on and talk about the vaccines if you'd like.
I do have one question, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah,
So
please.
you did say that you had no record of an adult passing the coronavirus to a child. Is that what you said?
So other way around.
Child to adult?
Correct, within the school setting. And again, I'm not saying it's not possible, but the data feeds that we get are from 11 districts that have been and really across the state, different sizes that have been across the state that have been in Plan B. We have some in Plan A now, but really talking about schools that have been in Plan B for at least 9 weeks. And we've worked with districts to figure out whether these were primary infections or secondary infections. So the two findings just within this cohort of 11 schools, right? Just to be clear, within that cohort for which we have data and we have a formal data sharing agreement, there was not a single episode of a child transmitting, a student transmitting to a teacher. So that's what I was saying. Now that said, in general, there are other data to show that kids tend to not be the transmitters. We're learning more about this every day, and I know you don't comment on the public comments, so I'm not going to answer that person's questions directly. But I think a difference between July and August and now is we're seeing that kids are not the super spreaders we thought they were going to be. Now that's very different compared to other respiratory viruses like influenza, where every year there's an influenza season. School break, the winter holidays are really wonderful because we know that for flu, and of course we've known about flu for at least 100 years longer than COVID. For flu, students are definitely the spreaders, and really the data from across the world and across the country, and then what we're seeing so far, again in those 11 schools, that's all I can tell you for certainty in North Carolina. But what we're seeing is children tend not to be playing a big part in spread, especially younger children.
Thank you.
Anything else from anyone? No? I'm eager to hear about the vaccine information.
Yeah, sure. So, and again, this is really, it's amazing to be part of this. So at Duke, we've been vaccinating in the clinical trial. So adults really starting the end of June. And actually, in the last couple of weeks, we've gone down to 12. So the Pfizer vaccine trial is now enrolling children 12 to 15. So it takes a long time to approve a vaccine. And two things I want to say. So one is I don't love the name of Operation Warp Speed. It doesn't really invoke confidence in me because it suggests that it's gone really, really, really fast. I will say being involved in lots of vaccine clinical trials in my career, this one, I think from hearing about the disease to having a vaccine ready to go, that was pretty short. And a lot of the regulatory steps, and that's not that corners were cut, but a lot of times, there's a lot of bureaucracy that needs to happen to kind of get the paperwork to happen. A lot of that stuff got filtered out. In terms of the conduct of the actual trial, this seemed very similar to every other clinical trial that I've been in. There were probably hundreds of sites across the country. Here at Duke, we enrolled somewhere between 130, 150 people so far. And I will say it seems to be a very effective vaccine. It seems to be a very safe vaccine. What we know is that last week there were kind of two separate bodies that voted on recommending the vaccine. The first is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that basically gets to decide whether it's safe for a therapeutic agent, whether it's an antibiotic or a vaccine, to kind of enter routine use in the United States. And then the other group is the ACIP, or the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which really advises the CDC for things about who exactly should get the vaccine and what is the ideal schedule. So for this first vaccine, which is the Pfizer vaccine, it's 2 doses separated by 21 days. And again, having done this trial myself, I can't be in the trial, but having run the trial and talked to people, the first dose doesn't seem to be too bad. The second dose, if you got the placebo, and remember, when you're in a clinical trial, you don't know whether you got the placebo, which is kind of a dummy salt saline injection, or the actual vaccine. If you got the second vaccine after the second dose, that tends to hurt a little bit more red, a little tender. But just so everyone's aware, this was not one of the vaccine trials that got halted for any major safety events. Really, apart from you have a little bit more local reaction after the second dose, it's thought to be a very safe vaccine. The only other thing I'll say before I open it up for questions is really what's going to be the key is distribution. We're going to have to roll out the vaccine, make more vaccine, and I think the good news is that in the state of North Carolina, the first tier, so tier 1, is going to be healthcare workers, and we just started vaccinating people at Duke this morning. Healthcare workers, and then residents and workers of long-term care facilities. So that's kind of group 1A, they're calling it in North Carolina. Group 1B includes a group of other people, includes essential workers, and actually teachers are essential workers. Group 1B is essential workers, or really anyone else who has 2 or more chronic conditions. But after that, group 2, so this kind of the second big wave, includes teachers. So we certainly understand that teachers are important in this. They're actually going to be vaccinated before students, which makes sense based on the fact that we know that adults tend to have worse disease than students will or children do. So that's the kind of plan for distribution in North Carolina. I don't have a sense for sure what the timeline is going to be, but from what I'm reading, probably we're not going to get all the healthcare folks vaccinated till at least the end of January, February, maybe moving to the second tiers, February, March. And then if you look at kind of what the folks at the national level are saying, late spring, early summer, where kind of most adults who want to be vaccinated can probably get vaccinated. And again, we're doing the trials right now down to 12. We're in the works of starting to plan for a younger group of kids down to 5. So it's going to be much longer until the children themselves can be vaccinated. And that's why it's important. Again, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's a pretty big tunnel. In the interim, it's important that we all continue to follow the 3 Ws. So again, that's vaccine in a nutshell. But I'll stop there again and see what, if any, specific questions you all have.
Thank you for that information, Dr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions? I think that was some very valuable information for us as well as for our community. So thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, Chair Perez.
That was it for the remote for the spring. That I think Chair Warden, were you going to share?
Oh,
that?
okay. I'm sorry. I thought athletics was under that, but that's under global citizens.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
That's under global citizens.
All right. Do we have anything else, Dr. Edmonds?
I don't. Is this where we were sharing out about the committee meeting on January 19th?
January 19th.
January 19th, that we would look at where we are in terms of staffing challenges that we may have, and looking at those parents who wanted their students to have some face-to-face second semester. So we'll bring that to the board on January the 19th for your feedback on that piece.
Okay. All right, that's it.
This is.
All right, so moving on, we're going to go on to the Policy Code Committee and Ms. Houston.
Okay. Ms. Sawyer?
Get my mask down and my glasses up. I'm getting confused. I'm trying to make them opposite there. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members. I come before you this evening to request the board review the following policy updates, considering approval at the January meeting. The policies were shared in an initial first read last month. Those policies include PCO1 Fall Policy Updates and PCO2 Web Page Development. I would further like to request the board to consider approval of the following policies as presented. PCO3 7900 Resignation, PCO4 5030 Community Use of Facilities. Policy updates for PC 3410B were approved during the testing assessment presentation earlier in the meeting. The additional updates as provided by the North Carolina School Boards Association are presented for approval this evening also. And that concludes my update on policy.
Do you, okay.
Yes.
I move that we approve PCO3 7900 resignation, PCO4 5030 community use of facilities, and PCO5 3410 testing and we've already done that one. Okay. You need a second?
Is there any discussion about either one of these?
I do, and the question on the community use of facilities. I see this an amendment that no one can use the school facilities during school, after school, or even weekends. Is that correct? Did I read it properly?
Just during COVID, yes.
Just during COVID. Is that indoor and outdoor facilities?
It's campus, on campus, and indoor and outdoor, yes.
Is there any way to separate that? So because outside limits are different. Is there any way to do like for sporting events? Like they had a 7-on-7 thing going on recently. And they ended up having to use Albemarle School's field. Is that something that could be done separately here with this? Where they have the ability to use our football field or our soccer fields? I don't know.
Dr. Evans, can we bring that back for reconsideration?
If it's already been approved, if it's already been voted on, I'm fine. I just asked the question.
No, it hasn't been voted on.
Okay.
No, it hasn't been voted on, but typically what happens is that the School Boards Association will send us policy updates based on what's going on at the state level, could be General Assembly, could be state statutes that have been enacted, and this is the one to protect us against the COVID.
So this is something that the state board has done, sent down to us.
The School Boards Association,
School
the
Boards
one that the
Association has
School
sent
Boards
that to us.
Association. Yes, so we're in a contract with them for our policy updates.
Understood.
And so this is what would be sent out across the state.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions? Did anybody second?
She's a mic.
Another question.
Are you asking to come back and revisit this?
No, this was when we were asking for approval this evening.
The stipulation that this is
We can have further discussion.
Yeah, the board would have to decide if that's something that you would want to go outside of what has been sent.
Right, I was fine. I was fine with the clarification from the superintendent.
Yeah, that's what since it's a policy that came from the State Board
It's recommended.
Association.
And I will share with the board that when we received this policy, I did have Ms. Sawyer call back to the School Boards Association because I said, what if it's an essential service like blood donation? And they cautioned us about going outside of that and trying to determine who does and who doesn't, because then it could be viewed as discrimination. And so I quickly, Ms. Sawyer, okay, go back to the policy that was sent, and we will work from there. If there has to be any exceptions, those things would have to come to the board, and the board would have to give us direction on that versus us making that decision. So I kind of thought the same thing and was quickly, when he said liable, I said, okay, got it.
I was going to say it's for liability reasons, especially during this time. And normally we go along with whatever is recommended by the School Board Association because they represent us. They're looking out for us, so.
Understood.
So does that explanation satisfy your concern?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Think so. And this does not include those public areas that with the local community, what is it called?
Parks and Rec.
Thank you. That just totally left me. So parks, it does not include those parks and recreation pieces.
Well, the programs
Yeah.
are probably not meeting right now, so everyone's kind of working.
Yeah, the one I mentioned was not on our school grounds. I know they were shifted to Albemarle School because what the facility they were using wouldn't allow them to use it anymore. So I was just saying, because they are our children, is it possible that we can open up our facility for the outside use? Since a lot of those children were our students.
Is this a sport or something? I mean,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it was a 7-on-7 football league. And I just know a lot of our kids, our children in the area, that really gave them something to do during this moment of COVID, where they couldn't really do a whole lot of sports. And that's all it was. So if we didn't have anybody using our facilities now, and we're sticking with it because it's the State School Board Association passed this down, I'm okay with it.
yeah.
And that's what you were talking about, Ms. Ward, Ms. Edmond.
And yes, to the best of our knowledge, those are the only ones that have requested.
Thank you.
And if we have any facilities use, we always bring those to the board. Ms. Haynes brings those to the board.
Okay,
So was there a second?
Motion and a second on
I
that.
I made the
So you
motion.
get a
Yeah,
second.
and Ms. Perez is
Made the
second.
second, okay.
We need a vote.
Okay, ready? Ms. Pereza? George Archuleta?
Aye.
Virginia Houston?
Aye.
Daniel Spence?
Aye.
Rodney Walton?
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams?
Aye.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Ms. Sawyer, for this committee?
That is all.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Houston, Ms. Sawyer. All right, we're moving on to the Excellent Educators Committee for the Beginning Teacher Plan. Dr. Williams.
Okay, so excellent educators, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Rhonda James Davis and Ms. Kelly Cowell with the beginning teacher coordinator. Okay, Kelly, Ms. Cowell, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Good. I can hear you and I can see you. All right, we're
Hello,
ready.
Chair
Thank you.
Borden, Vice Chair Pereza, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Edmonds. I am before you to ask for approval of the beginning teacher support plan. An update was added to our local plan to be in compliance with General Statute 115C-269.35, which states all beginning teachers at the end of their first year of teaching will complete their recent graduate survey, as well as their school administrators to complete the employer survey. The survey will gather data to measure the performance of educator preparation programs and will provide information for the State of the Teaching Profession report. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Cowell? Okay, if no questions, I'm going to move that we accept the beginning teacher plan, EE01.
I second.
So it's been moved and seconded that we accept the beginning teacher plan. Any discussion? I do want to say you did an excellent job on this plan. I looked at it very carefully.
Yeah, I did too.
There were some very, very good points in there. So thank you very much to you and to your team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Roll call vote. Ms. Sawyer?
Pam Pereza, George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Rodney Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Williams, is that it?
Yes. Yes.
All right, we're
Thank
moving on to global citizens and healthy students. Mr. Archuleta and Mr. Spence. Mr. Archuleta, will you start us off, please?
Okay, I believe Dr. Edmonds is going to give us an update on the athletics. So I'll turn it over to her.
And we have Dr. Miller. I see him present.
Yes. Chair Warden, Vice Chair Pereza, and Committee Chair, Mr. Archuleta. We do have with us this evening Dr. Miller, who has been working with us and our sports trainers. And so we're happy to have him with us this evening as we're discussing sports participation for the upcoming semester. Before I seek guidance from the board, I do want to share where we are with the governor's orders. And the governor's orders on November 25th states that face masks are required indoors at all times. Our volleyball team has been participating with their mask on. All players and spectators must wear masks, and that's for amateur and youth sports. So that means that our sports teams that are coming up in the spring will be required to wear face masks, and youth sports starts at 5 years old and up. On December the 11th, well, from December 11th through January the 8th, the governor's orders state a stay at home between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. And so there has been some discussion amongst the ADs and superintendents about shifting times that students would compete to ensure that we're in compliance with the 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Order. And so this evening, I'm requesting or seeking guidance from the board for our students, our athletes participating in spring sports. We were approved earlier to have our names on the rosters, said that we would come back to the board to seek approval for participation for the spring sports. And so we do have Dr. Miller, so that if you have any questions, or need some assistance from him, he can certainly answer any questions and share out what he and the sports trainers are doing with our students. And he shared at an earlier board meeting the return to play protocol, and we saw that in action this week. And so at this time, I will turn it back over to you, Ms. Warden, as we seek guidance from the board about participating in spring sports.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Miller or Dr. Miller? Sorry, Jerry.
It's fine. We go way back.
I guess, Dr. Miller, I would ask, I know inside then, playing basketball, they would need to wear masks while they're playing. Do you feel this will bring any kind of harm? I mean, maybe it's because I'm out of shape and old that I have a hard time breathing, but I'm just wondering if some of these athletes, after they exert themselves, are they going to be able to breathe okay, or what's your recommendation on that?
Yeah, I support this plan. If you look at data, and again, I'm going to kind of piggyback off some of what Dr. Smith alluded to with sort of the small numbers that we're looking at and sort of small cohorts. But there have been studies done that look at athletes' oxygenation levels, the amount of CO2 they retain, all these things that we look at with wearing a mask, and there really has been no decline in function in the studies. So again, as of right now, that's the recommendation, and I support it.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
I think my biggest concern is about the unknown as far as down the road, like what kinds of things may occur as a result of an athlete participating at this time and say they are infected with COVID, they come back, what does that, I know there's been some studies done about the fact that there are some lifelong, problems once it is contacted. That's my major concern.
Right, and the honest answer is we just simply do not know.
Right.
If you kind of watch the media or the news over the weekend, there was unfortunately a gentleman from Norfolk, Virginia. He's a phenomenal basketball player down at the University of Florida. He actually collapsed at a game this weekend. I believe he's still on life support right now.
Yeah.
The early reports were that he did have COVID earlier in the year. Now, we're only speculating, so you can't say that what happened to this young gentleman right now is a result of COVID. The return to play protocol that we set forth, that we brought before you a month or so ago, really is designed to go slow intentionally. CDC guidelines have changed since we made our protocol. They've actually shortened durations of quarantines. We kind of elected right now to sit tight because we still just don't know with kids with exertion and sport. We don't follow these guidelines and recommendations because we are afraid that every child that has COVID is going to end up with myocarditis, and have some long-term cardiac problem. We don't think that at all. Is it a possibility? Yes. So we go slow. And as Dr. Edmonds alluded to, we've had a few instances across the region in your school system and some of the other districts where we put this protocol into place. And, all I can say is so far, so good. There was a concern that's come up. And unfortunately, there's not a lot any of us can do about it. And that's honesty from athletes. Like this whole screen that we do is really predicated upon the athlete telling us the truth. So the athlete comes in, their screen, their temperature is an objective finding, meaning we measure that. But when we ask the screen, do you have cough, fever, et cetera, and so on? Have you been in contact? We're really basing this upon the fact that they're telling us the truth. And so banking on the fact that they will tell us the truth, we feel like we have a good system in place. But that's where our follow-up measures help, because to Mr. Archuletta's point, if they do have their mask on, if we are keeping them distance on the sidelines, even if a young person doesn't tell the truth to us, we should be able to decrease the risk of spread. Is that absolute? No, it's not. Is it the best we can do under the circumstances? We believe so currently.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or concerns
Is this just
to
for
Dr.
him?
Miller? No, anything else? Not just for Dr. Miller, if you have any other questions.
I do. Last meeting, I think on the 23rd, y'all discussed middle school sports as well. Or somebody asked a question about middle school sports. Is this decision we're looking at now, or this updates? Do we have any updates on middle school sports?
Yeah, well, when I presented to the board last on middle school, I did not have any recommendations to move forward with middle school.
From the board?
Right.
Or from the,
And this is just the basketball program for the spring, or?
It would include, or could include basketball, football that would start in February. Ms. James Davis, I can't remember all of them, but it would, the North Carolina High School Athletic Association shifted around when sports were played, so it would be based on that calendar.
Okay.
And I can pull that up really quickly to let you know. I think lacrosse and some other things, soccer maybe, softball, soccer, but it's at different months. So January is basketball, February, I think it's lacrosse and football. And I can look it up to see when the other ones are.
so while you're looking it up, so is that a decision that we make now that we can kind of put some look at trying to bring those sports back in as well, those middle school sports back in as well? Or how do we do that? Help me understand that.
That would be a board's decision.
Help me understand.
Yeah, right now, I think the main thing we need to concentrate on is
Just high school.
the sports that are coming up, which would be basketball and football. Am I correct?
We're getting ready to pull it. She has it up. It's just so, I guess. I could
Is that just for high school?
That's my point.
Just for high school.
That's my point. So can we look at it for middle school, or is that just out of the question right now?
So when I reported out to the board last month, DHHS is the one that gave us guidance on middle school because it's not a part of the high school, or is it the CDC? I'm sorry, because it's not a part of High School Athletic Association. And they listed football and basketball as high-risk sports. And so based on that, and that guidance, I did not make any recommendations to have our middle schools participate since those are considered high-risk sports.
But I think that we had mentioned that in the past, we had always deferred to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And then at this point, we're saying something different for middle school versus what we're doing for high school. You know, the concern is that our other middle schools within our conference going to participate in any sports? Or do we know that?
I don't know that we know that. Dr. Edmonds, do we know that? Do we know about our other
Middle schools
that we
within
are
our
going to be
conference.
competing against in our conference?
I knew that one of the coaches sent out something from the middle schools, and I can't remember what the sports were, the dates, but they were trying to pull something together because the High School Athletic Association and their information to us stated that they were not overseeing middle school sports and that local boards would have to make that decision. But I can look that up as well. I'm trying to figure out this calendar that's in front of me. Let's see, it's football, golf, tennis, soccer, softball. So in the month of February, it is football. January is basketball. Let's see, March looks like golf, tennis, soccer, and softball. Somewhere around April, baseball, tennis, track and field, and wrestling.
So right now, we'll be making a decision on middle school playing basketball then, right?
High school.
No, high school.
No, I'm saying,
So previously, we voted to allow fall to winter sports, and then we would revisit spring sports at this meeting. So spring sports for high school, as recommended by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, to continue. So right now, we have our names on the list to participate or compete in these sports for our conference. But we said we would revisit it at this meeting to make sure that we were all still in agreement with proceeding with participating in high school sports for the spring.
not discussing middle school now.
Not this particular.
Okay, understood then. Sorry.
No, that's good clarification.
But if the decision could be yes, that we would participate, as we deal with scheduling, that would be the next topic of like the curfew, so that we can make sure that the kids would be back by 10, depending on where we'd be, if we had a road game or something like that.
Now, would that be up to us or the ADs that we put that responsibility on them?
I think Dr. Edmonds said that they were looking at moving times up for competitions to be moved up earlier so that we would ensure that they would be home in time to beat the curfew.
So the ADs across the region are working together.
Thank you.
So is there, not for this time, because we didn't put it on the agenda for this time for anything except high school, but will there be consideration to check to see what other systems or other boards are doing with regard to middle school athletics, beginning perhaps with February or March rotations?
Sure. And I did reach out to some to talk about high school sports. I did not ask about middle school
Right.
sports around us,
Exactly.
but I can definitely do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Isabel.
So where are we with high school sports locally? I mean, within our conference? I mean, are we going to have teams to compete against? I mean,
Well, that's
I'll get my thing.
We need to
I
know
have it.
that.
Give me 1 second and I'm going to pull
We
it up
do need
and I
to
can
know that.
tell you who we would compete against and who. So the conferences have also been shifted around.
right.
And these are not finalized, but they are drafts. And for our district, we would be in with Camden, Hertford, Holmes, Manteo, Northeastern, Pasquotank. Of course, those are ours. Curry Tuck and First Flight.
Is that starting this school year?
Yeah.
Starting in June 20?
That's what they
I
said.
thought it was next.
That's what.
Camden's in our conference now.
But it's a draft.
Second there too.
And I can double.
But I'm
check.
saying starting in January, we still remain in our conference, I thought, in the new conference, which would
Let me see if this says.
Drop down to 1A.
we drop down to 1A, but that's next school year, right? So that would, and it would, when it would include Camden.
Okay. And I can double check on that.
I think our conference this year can't change in the middle of the school year.
I thought Camden's status changed, not ours.
But
Am I wrong?
If it's a draft, I don't believe, we need clarification on when that new designation for the conference starts, but I didn't believe that it would change in the middle of a school year.
And so in terms of who's participating, and I'm not sure who's in our conference, I can just tell you the superintendents that have responded.
Or who's participating, because we do compete still against Camden. That doesn't mean they're in our conference.
And he may not have been one that responded, but I can tell you
think they-
just for those that responded.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were, I don't know.
I think they moved up to 2A.
I'm sorry, I don't know that for sure, but I know the new, I thought that the new classifications for the changes, not.
Yeah, I can find out and I'll send it out to the board. You don't have to wait until the next board meeting. I'll just send that out.
Okay.
Of who's in our conference for this time. And I can put in there also who's participating and who's not based on who's in our conference.
I think we're maybe talking about two different things about the changes in the conferences going to from our current to 1A versus who's competing with us.
Right, because
Right now.
everybody's not. So I'll
Right.
find out who's competing and who we would compete against if we were to stay in sports for high school for January.
Okay.
But I would still need,
So we still need a vote on whether or not we're going to stay in the same status that we're in as far as sports. Are we going to move forward with what we had already decided with basketball and football, high school basketball and football? Is that how you want to?
so however the board would like to move forward, but yeah, would it be all spring sports? We can talk about all spring sports that we have, which will be, I know, basketball, football, baseball, and all of those, or we can take it month by month, season by season, whatever is up to you all. Whatever you all are comfortable with.
I think we move forward. I would make a recommendation that we continue to move forward for spring sports so that they can begin their conditioning prior to their seasons. So, Chair Warden, I make a motion that we proceed with our original plan to participate in spring sports following the schedule of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we've had a motion on the floor and a second. We need a vote by roll call.
Pam Perezza,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Daniel Spence,
Aye.
Robert Walton,
Aye.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Miller.
All right, thank you.
Is that all, Mr. Archuleta, for
Yeah.
Global Citizens?
Yes, ma'am.
I
Yes.
believe it is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to board member reports. For those of you who are new members, this is an opportunity for you to share anything you'd like in relation to your work with a school. If you have something you want to share that about a particular student that you've been working with or whatever, anything in general that you would like to share with us. And we'll begin with Dr. Williams. Do you have anything?
No, I do not. I just, I guess I do just want to, again, thank Dr. Edmonds and the team and the work that you are continuing to do. And I hope that you get all the rest that's needed during this holiday break.
Mr. Archuleta?
I know several times I mentioned, I believe it's because of COVID, we haven't recognized these people, but I know we've had several retirements, and I just was looking at, we got Lee Austin, Jennifer Hawkins, and I believe Shirley Powell, who have retired, and I just want to thank them for the job they have done. I mentioned others. And I also would like to mention, for y'all, I don't know if all of you know, but Mr. Frankie Floyd, he used to be head of maintenance, and I've already discussed this with his wife, so I'm not sharing anything. But he went for his first planning of cancer. They found him with cancer, and he's going to go through that. So their family has asked for prayers from us. If you're praying tight, that you remember Frankie. But I just, like I say, I'm sure it's because of COVID. We haven't, thought of these retirees, but I just feel they need to be mentioned. And I did want to say, I know we got a principal for Central, but I do want to thank, is it Miss Whitehurst that was there, that for the job she did, she filled in, and I think she did the best she could, and I want her to thank her.
Thank you, Mr. Archuleta.
Yes.
Ms. Houston?
Well, this is probably the first time that I've had the opportunity to congratulate our new board members. We have always worked as a cohesive team, and we do disagree at times, but we do it in an agreeable manner, and I'm sure there will be times when we will still do that. We are very glad to have your addition to our team, and we know that you're bringing a great deal of talent with you, and we want you to know that we're receptive to all ideas coming in. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone who works in the school system, who helps our children. Your work has not gone unnoticed. There's a lot of us in the community who do see you and do see your work. We may not get a chance to get to you personally and say thank you, but publicly, we thank you for all that you do. I had an opportunity on last week to help with Miss Williams in her Entrepreneurship 1 class. I was a Shark Tank judge for those students, and we did it virtual. And some of those kids, if I had the money, I would invest in them right now because they had some great ideas for businesses. They presented them well. They had PowerPoints that was phenomenal. So, excuse me. So it was a great opportunity to do that with the kids. I've done it for a couple of years now, but just to see them in this season still been able, because before they did hands-on paperwork project, now they have to create PowerPoints. It was just phenomenal. So congrats to Ms. Williams for getting the kids engaged to do that. And thank you to all the children who actually did those projects. It looked real good, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Houston, and the rest of the board members. Thank you for the welcome aboard. I think, like I said before, as a new member, I'm going to have 1,000 million questions, and I think it may have gotten started already a little early this week. So I do appreciate everybody getting back to me to kind of get on track and keep me on task. I wanted to be on this board to affect change. So hopefully that's what, like Ms. Houston said, hopefully that's what we can collaboratively do. And we don't have to always agree, but as long as we're thinking about, the people who we serve, I think that's the first and foremost thing that we should be looking forward to. And then on a lighter note, when we're talking about resignations, my father, who put in his resignation this morning, he would never say this. But I know that he really appreciated his time working with the ECPPS board and the system. He always said how nice you guys treated. That's probably why I wanted to be on the board, because the nicest people he said worked at ECPPS. So from him to me to you guys, I want to say thank you on behalf of my father. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Congratulations to him on his retirement, correct?
Yes.
Yes, congratulations to him. And welcome to you both, and hope you felt good about your first meeting with us tonight. And just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, and stay safe, and continue to enjoy the work we do together as this board.
I just want to say thank you for your support. I want to tell each and every one of you to have a wonderful holiday. I also want to encourage you, on the 21st of December, there will be in the sky, the Christmas star will appear because of the merging of two planets. And that's a pretty significant occurrence for this year especially. So whenever you think hope is very, very distant and very, very hard to find, there you go. It is there. I've always believed in that, and I always will. So everyone have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you back in January. Get plenty of rest, because it sounds like we've got a lot of work to do, as we always do. So thank you so much, everyone. And at this time, I would like to ask for a motion from the floor to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All right. All in favor by a show of hands. Okay. Thank you very much. Be safe.